When I was 17, I said no to the wrong man. He ruined my reputation, stole my future, and smiled while doing it. No one believed me, not then, so I disappeared and spent the next 10 years learning how to expose him. And everyone who protected him. I didn't come back for revenge. I came back as proof. The first time I said no to Jason Caldwell, I was 17. He was 25, a community golden boy, a graduate assistant in the media department at Eastview High, always volunteering, always smiling, always praised by the administration. He coached the debate team. He ran tech for school plays. Everyone knew him. I was in the audio lab that day, editing a short film for class, when he walked in and closed the door behind him. He told me I had talent, said I had a real eye for rhythm and story. He leaned in close as he spoke, his hand brushing my shoulder like it was a mistake. It wasn't. When I didn't laugh at his jokes or blush at his compliments, his face changed, not angry, just colder. He made a comment about how the right kind of girls got better opportunities. I stared straight ahead and didn't respond. But the next week, my footage was corrupted. The lab claimed it was user error. The week after that, I was removed from a student showcase I had been hand-picked for. The teacher mumbled something about a change in lineup. Jason still smiled when he saw me. He always smiled. The school never believed me. I told Mrs. Green, my guidance counselor. She said Jason was deeply trusted by the community and warned me that false accusations can hurt everyone. I went to the principal, Mr. Stanley. He said my feelings were valid, but without evidence, his hands were tied. So I started writing everything down. Every interaction, every comment, every odd decision that happened after I rejected him. But I wasn't prepared for how far he would go. The real nightmare began when I won a small film competition that offered a mentorship with a local news station, the same station where Jason interned part-time. I saw him during orientation. He winked. 2 days later, I was told the program was overbooked. My name wasn't on the final list. The email said it was a system error. I broke down in the school parking lot. That night, I sent emails to every adult I had trusted. Teachers, coaches, my former employer at the library, even the assistant principal. No one responded. Not one. A week later, someone left a note in my locker that said, "Snitches don't graduate." I never told my parents. My father was working 2 jobs. My mother was recovering from surgery. I didn't want to bring them more pain. Instead, I kept my head down and graduated early. I left town the day after the ceremony, taking a Greyhound to Chicago and swearing I'd never come back. But I never stopped writing. I kept a journal, a drive full of voice memos, emails printed and saved. I joined forums under aliases, whisper groups where girls shared names. Jason's came up 3 times in the next 5 years. Always the same pattern. Praise from above, isolation, gaslighting. I went to film school and learned not just how to tell stories, but how to catch them. I learned how to set up hidden mics, how to monitor wireless signals, how to spoof locations and extract metadata. I interned at investigative agencies, took classes in digital forensics. I wasn't healing. I was preparing. By the time I turned 26, Jason Caldwell had risen. He was now director of student engagement at Eastview, a position with hiring power, influence, access. He had buried more than just my opportunities. So I returned, not to reclaim what was mine, but to dig up everything he thought was dead. I didn't use my real name. I came back under the identity of a freelance educational consultant, funded through a shell firm based in Denver. My credentials were clean, my story airtight. I requested interviews with Eastview staff for a research piece on school leadership and student outreach programs. Jason agreed instantly. He didn't recognize me. He had seen so many faces, manipulated so many names. I was just another file in the crowd to him. He welcomed me into his office with open arms, offered me coffee, and bragged about the legacy he was building. I placed my phone on the desk, recording. I asked questions, let him talk, and he did. Arrogance doesn't whisper, it brags, boasts. He made offhand remarks about handling sensitive students, joked about how some kids just don't have the maturity to see a good thing. He mentioned soft power, as if it were something to be proud of. After the meeting, I walked to my rented car with shaking hands. It had begun. I didn't sleep that night. I reviewed the recording 5 times, isolated audio clips, cross-referenced speech patterns with known victims, started mapping timelines. I pulled his calendar using a spoofed staff login, cross-checking meetings with past events from former students who had contacted me in confidence. I found inconsistencies. Then I found patterns. By the end of the week, I knew what I had to do. Not just expose Jason, expose everyone who let him thrive. They hadn't ignored me because they didn't believe me. They ignored me because they didn't want the system to crack. Because people like Jason made the system run smooth for people like them. I was going to make sure they felt every fracture, one at a time, in public, with no way to look away. The first leak was small. A grainy audio clip, just 10 seconds long. Jason's voice clearly audible saying, "Sometimes girls need a little push to see what's best for them." The words dripped with smugness. I uploaded it anonymously to a local education reform forum. It was enough to spark whispers. He denied it on his private socials, claimed the clip was fake, manipulated, a smear from anonymous bad faith actors. But I had more. I released a second clip 2 days later. This time it was 28 seconds. Him laughing, talking about kids who think a scholarship means they can mouth off without consequences. The local school board took notice. Still, they didn't act. That was fine, because I hadn't even started bleeding them yet. I reached out to a former classmate, Denise Tran. She had once confessed to me, in a nervous whisper in the girls' locker room, that Jason cornered her after a rehearsal and asked her to audition again, but more naturally. She left Eastview the following year. Transferred schools. No one ever asked why. I sent her a message from a new account. She remembered me. And she remembered everything. We spoke for 2 hours. She cried. I listened. Then I showed her what I had, the audio clips, the timeline, the silence. She sent me her own journal entries. Her old phone, still loaded with emails and texts she never had the strength to report. One of them made my breath stop. It was Jason, writing, "You're too smart to cry over a compliment." I had what I needed, but I wasn't going to drop it all at once. This wasn't just about Jason. It was about the machine that let him thrive, the guidance counselor who silenced me, the teachers who shrugged and said, "You misunderstood," the principal who smiled through my pain and sent me out the door with nothing. So I hacked the district's cloud database. They used an old system, predictable, sloppy. I found internal complaint logs, the unofficial kind. 14 flagged student complaints across 7 years. None had reached formal hearings. All were marked addressed or resolved privately. All involved Jason Caldwell. I built a dossier, not just audio and text, but a visual map of how he moved through the school, how complaints disappeared, how people who asked too many questions were quietly reassigned or encouraged to retire early. I didn't send it to the police. I sent it to the parents. Through a burner account, I mailed every major parent group, every PTA contact, every whistleblower subreddit, the entire package, with dates, names, screenshots. Within 2 days, the district's inbox was burning. But I wasn't done. I dug into Jason's side projects, his nonprofit youth mentorship through media, a feel-good PR shell that promised internships and film opportunities for disadvantaged kids. The funding came from local businesses, donations, community grants. I created a false identity, posed as a donor, asked for a private walkthrough of the facility, He welcomed me with open arms, too stupid or too arrogant to remember my eyes. The place was a single floor in a half-vacant office building. Dusty, cold, outdated computers and missing equipment. The mentorship program was a front. The interns? Only a handful ever appeared in public photos. The money wasn't helping kids. It was helping him. I planted a bug behind his desk and left. 3 days of recordings, hours of Jason bragging, calling parents naive, mocking the kids he was supposed to mentor, joking about how grooming wasn't always a bad word in the old days. It was enough. The next drop hit every inbox in the district. Teachers, admin, local news. This time, the fire caught. By Friday, Jason was suspended pending an internal review. He denied everything, claimed he was the victim of a deepfake campaign, blamed a vindictive ex-student with a grudge. The school board tried to act like this was the first they'd heard of anything. But I had prepared for them, too, because I had copies of their emails. Mr. Stanley's response to a complaint from Denise. Let's not escalate. Mrs. Green's email to another counselor. We don't need drama. He's valuable here. An admin note from the HR office. Delay action. Wait for news cycle shift. I released it all. Every adult who failed us now had their complicity pinned like a rotting badge for the world to see. Their excuses drowned in evidence. One by one, they issued statements, apologies without the word sorry, vague language, mistakes were made, oversight, we believe in growth and healing. But I wasn't interested in their healing. I was interested in making them remember, and sent them each a letter. No threats, no return address. Just one sentence. You heard me cry and turned away. I didn't need to see their faces when they opened it. The silence afterward told me everything. By the time the district tried damage control, the story had already spread beyond them. A local journalist picked up the leaks and ran a series titled The Predator in the hallways. Every segment peeled back another layer. Failed oversight, whispered warnings, fake mentorships, and silenced students. Jason's face was on every headline, but the real horror came from the threads underneath the articles. People started talking. Not just former students, parents, staff, community volunteers, people who remembered little things, offhand remarks, uncomfortable looks, things they ignored at the time but now saw differently. He hadn't just preyed on the vulnerable. He had built an ecosystem that protected him, and I had just smashed it open. Jason went quiet. No press statements, no interviews, but I knew he was scrambling behind closed doors. That's when the burner phone I had given Denise rang. It was Jason. She didn't answer. She sent the voicemail to me. He sounded panicked, his voice cracked. Denise, listen, I don't know what you think you're doing, but this is serious. These people are dangerous. They're trying to ruin me. We need to talk. We? That word. That pathetic reach for shared history. For control. I had heard that tone before. When I was 17 and he told me no one would believe me. The worm was writhing. I didn't give him time to breathe. I uploaded sealed court documents next. One's tied to a civil suit filed years ago by a woman in a neighboring district. She had accused Jason of misconduct during an outreach event when he worked at a community center in his early 20s. The case was dismissed, settled quietly, but I had the settlement terms. I had the non-disclosure agreement, and I had the video the woman had sent to her lawyer before the case vanished. Jason, leaning in close, hand hovering too long, voice thick with that same fake charm. The woman's discomfort was clear, so was his intent. I didn't blur her face. She had given me permission. The video hit harder than any document. People saw it, felt it. It was undeniable now. There was no walking this back. The school board announced a full investigation. Too late. The community wanted blood, not promises. Teachers resigned. Donors pulled funding. Parents pulled kids from programs linked to Jason. but the damage went deeper than that. Mrs. Green stepped down quietly. Her apology letter was nothing but fluff, but buried in it was a single line: "I should have listened." Mr. Stanley retired 2 weeks early, claimed stress. His office was cleared out overnight. Other staff members posted long, emotional threads online. Some defended him, others apologized, most stayed silent. I documented all of it. I archived every post, every name, every shift, because I wasn't just building a case. I was building a record, something no one could ever erase. Then came the final piece, the footage from the mentorship building. Jason had been careless. My bug picked up everything: conversations with assistants, laughing with board members, dismissing girls who raised concerns. One clip in particular made me stop cold. He joked to a friend, "The trick is picking the ones who need validation. The broken ones are easier." I played that line over and over, and then I made it public. It broke the last dam. Protests formed outside the district office. Community groups called for criminal charges. An alumni association disbanded entirely after discovering their funds had helped Jason's nonprofit. Sponsors backed out. Donations evaporated. Eastview was bleeding, and I was still twisting the knife. But I wasn't doing this for fun. This wasn't revenge for the sake of revenge. It was for every girl who wrote something down and buried it because no one would believe her. For every teenager who cried alone in a bathroom stall, thinking silence was the only option. For every scared whisper ignored by people paid to protect them. This was a reckoning, and I was not finished. The charges came quietly at first. An internal review triggered by the school board uncovered misused funds, improper reimbursements, unauthorized bonuses, all linked to Jason's nonprofit. Embezzlement was the first word they used, but it wasn't the one that stuck. More former students came forward, some with messages, some with screenshots, a few with scars that didn't need proof. Their stories painted the same picture: a man who preyed on the powerless and counted on silence. The DA opened a formal investigation within the month. Jason was arrested in his apartment in the middle of the night. The mugshot didn't show his smirk anymore, just swollen eyes and pale skin. He posted bail, but his name was poisoned. No school, no institution, no program would touch him now. I watched the news clip from a rented studio in the city. I didn't feel joy, I didn't cheer. I just felt done. But there was one last thing I needed to do. I returned to Eastview High. This time, I didn't wear a mask. No false name, no disguise. I walked through the front doors in the middle of the afternoon, past the students in the halls, the same halls where I once kept my head down and prayed to be invisible. People stared. Some knew, some didn't. I went to the main office and asked for access to the auditorium. I said I was an alum, that I had something to leave behind. The secretary hesitated, then handed me the key. The room was empty, dusty seats, faint echo, the same old stage with chipped paint and curtains that smelled like mildew. I stood in the center, looking out at the chairs, remembering all the times I sat in the back row, watching others shine while I shrank. I placed a single envelope on the podium. Inside was a copy of everything: the documents, the messages, the recordings. A sealed letter addressed to the next girl who might sit in this room and wonder if anyone will believe her. The letter said, "I see you, I believe you, and they won't get away with it this time." I left it unsigned. Then I walked out and didn't look back. The fallout continued without me. Jason's trial was scheduled for the fall. His defenders vanished. Some deleted accounts, others posted apologies too late to matter. The school board turned over, new names, new faces. The district passed new policies too: mandatory reporting changes, third-party oversight, anonymous student hotlines. But I knew policy wouldn't save anyone. Only proof does. Only truth, sharp and undeniable, can break through a system built to forget. Months later, Denise, "They're afraid of you," she wrote. ends with two words. Be may should be. Because I had kept every file, every name, every thread, not just from Eastview, but from the other schools I had watched since. I had become something else entirely, a shadow in the system, a collector of silence, a mirror held up to the face of every adult who ever turned away. I didn't go back to my old life. I'd built something new, something useful. I ran a network now, not loud, not public, just quiet and devastating. We tracked names, protected students, built a firewall of truth strong enough to keep people like Jason from slipping through again. No recognition, no headlines. Just results. The world didn't hand me justice, so I became it. And for the first time in my life, I no longer cried behind closed doors. Now they did.